All right, folks, what is going on? What is happening? We got the beat for you right here. Raised on Real Estate is back, and you're probably like, man, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that it's like 2 in almost a week. I know, what can I say? It's great to have you back here. Greg Angello with you. Raised on Real Estate, the podcast series. Gorgeous day. It's a Wednesday, August 24th. And I'm coming in here today to talk to you about some of the stuff that we've been talking about on our Mindset Motivation on a call program that we had this morning. All right. And I think it's a great topic. And quite frankly, I was just talking about it, but I didn't have the record button on. It's like, that's one thing that you really need to do. It's important. We'd like to welcome you all back to the platform, and it's great for you to be here. If you checked out our last podcast that I did, basically just talking about, a lot of things that are going on in the real estate market and also about the send-out cards, okay? Sendoutcards.com. It's a great tool that we use in our business, and for many people out there, they use it in their business. You don't even have to have a business. You can just do it. Now, when you're getting this, it may not be Wednesday, and that's okay. I want to frame this for you. This morning's Mindset Motivation was about a certain word that we use, that we have in our vernacular, in our vocabulary, just about every single day, almost throughout the entire day for some people. It starts with a W and it ends in a Y. Usually. Or an I or an E. And it's not Winnie, like Winnie the Pooh. The word is worry. That is a word that we use pretty much completely all the time. Like, what's going on? No, just worried. What are you worried about? No, I'm just kind of worried today. Just worried about things, So you're just worried. Yeah, I'm just been thinking about things, and things are tough right now and all that. So I'm just, stewing about it. Just a little worried about it. Okay. So I'm talking to you like we're talking to each other, but the reality is that's what's going on in your mind. It's like, I'm just go back, I'm going to go sit in the corner, and I'm going to worry about it until I'm done worrying about it. And then when I'm done worrying about it, when I've had enough worry in my mind, then I'm going to come out of the corner and I'm going to do something. Now, that is really what is happening inside your mind when you're dealing with issues that obviously you can't either control, which we normally don't, circumstances or events that took place, and we don't know the outcome, we don't know the result, we don't know whether or not we should do something about it or just let it go. So what do? We worry about it. We stew over it. Remember that old saying? You got to keep stirring that. You got to keep stirring it until, it's like making sauce. There's a rule about making sauce. It was like every 15 minutes, you got to go back to the pot, stir it. Well, stirring the pot also means like causing problems, which is worrying does. Worrying causes issues that you have no control over, as I said, or that the worrying doesn't change the circumstance. The worrying doesn't alter the event. But sometimes we think that by doing that, it's good for us to worry about it. Well, what are you doing? I'm just worrying about it. Okay. Well, you just go ahead and do that. Let me know how that turns out for you. Now, I'm not trying to make light of it, okay? So please don't say, well, Greg, you think this is a joke. It's not, because as I said in the Mindset Motivation call this morning, I have dealt with that growing up for years. And probably many of you have dealt with that. Being around people, it's like, what's going on with you? What's wrong? You all right? No, I'm okay. Just worried. Just worrying about this. I'm worrying about that. Worrying about tomorrow, whether or not we're going to get this done. I'm worrying about whether or not the car's going to work. I'm worrying. But these are things that are not effective. You're not doing anything about it. You're just having a mind result about whatever it is. And I'm sure you can probably agree. Is that something that you are dealing with? This morning, I brought up this example. I'm going to talk about it right now because the example that I brought up, which I'm sure it happens to a lot of us, has probably happened to you. Going to the doctor and getting either a physical or going in for something, going in for a test, MRI, whatever it is. and you have to wait for the results. Sometimes they just don't bring it to you right away. You got to wait. Now, you had the results. You've taken the exams. You've taken the tests. You've taken the labs, and you don't know the results. But you will. So what do we do in the meantime? Or you worry about them. It's like, okay. All right, doc. So when am I? Well, it'll be about maybe 48, 72 hours. So we're going to send you. We're going to let you know about them. And have a great weekend. Okay. So this is kind of like what happened to me, right? I was talking about one of the issues I had when my wife and we went to Mexico, and I was dealing with acid reflux. I deal with acid reflux. It's a thing that I have. It's not something that I'm dealing with as in that it's really that bad all the time. But if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, like take my acid reducing medicine over the counter, basically, then after a while I can have some issues, flare-ups. And I'm sure some of you deal with that. Basically, if anyone that's like over 40, depending upon your lifestyle and what you've done, what you've consumed, things like that, what you've drank, all of those things has an effect on this little device. Call it that, it's called a sphincter. It's a little flap. And it's right down there at the bottom of your esophagus by your stomach, and it opens and closes when food goes down and liquid goes down, and then it's supposed to close. Well, when you have acid reflux, or what they categorize it as GERD, then it doesn't always close, and so all of the acid juices that are in there, the trap isn't closed, and so it's just what it's going to do. It's going to go up the pipe. It's going to go up your esophagus, and that's not good. Because that acid's not supposed to be up there. It's supposed to stay down in your stomach, cleaning up all the food and everything that you got in there, so the food and the nutrients and all of those things can go throughout the body. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. When I was in Mexico, we don't drink alcohol. My wife and I don't drink, even though it was all-inclusive. Have whatever you want, whenever you wanted. We were drinking other things. Having bottled water was not easily accessible. We had like a 4 in our room, but it wasn't like they had it everywhere. You had to have the tap water or just a glass of water that they would give you if that's what you had. Well, I didn't really want to be drinking the tap water. People say, don't drink the water. So there's other canned drinks that was in this cafeteria style. It wasn't really a cafeteria. It was really a room that had all kinds of cool stuff in it, all kinds of foods that you could have 24/7, and it had a lot of drinks, a lot of, like sodas, canned sodas. So I was drinking that stuff. The Diet Cola, the regular cola, they had some different juices that was there, but it's not American. And there was a soda drink that was a Mexican soda drink. It looked kind of cool. I was trying to figure out what was in it, but I think it had a lot of caffeine in it and a lot of other stuff. Didn't have any alcohol in it, but it was probably an energy drink. Well, that, along with the coffee that I had always been drinking and not maintaining my regimen of my acid reducer, because I've been doing very well with it over the years. I lost a lot of weight. I go to the gym. I exercise. I try to eat really, really well. Well, unfortunately, the stuff that I was colas and that soft drink didn't like my stomach very much, and I had an acid attack, basically. And that does all kinds of things. It's like your blood pressure goes up. You're feeling all this pressure on your chest. It's like all these things are going on. You can feel it in your arms, feel it all over. It's like, what's going on? So I had to deal with it while I was there. It's not fun, I have to tell you. Having an acid reflux attack, which I had about 20 years ago when I turned 40, wasn't good. I was dealing with it back then. I had to get on medication. I had to have an upper GI. It wasn't good. And I thought it was something else going on because it mimicked other things. But the acid, it can do a lot of, it has a big effect on your body. So, my wife's like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. So, I had to go down to the store. There was a store shop inside the hotel, and they had stuff that you could take. Like, they had Tums and Pepto-Bismol and the acid-reducing pills, but they're not American. They kind of sounded, kind of looked like it, but it was close, but not the real thing. And I had to get some aspirins. Long story short on all of that, probably about the second day, we're getting into Sunday now. This happened on a Friday. On a Sunday, I started feeling better, but I'm still dealing with a lot of the acid because now I'm concerned about I don't really have my stuff with me because my wife only took stuff for her. And I didn't take all of mine with me because my wife usually packs a lot of that stuff. I'll never have that happen again. It's like, if I'm not going to rely on her to have it because she's like, I got to have mine, why don't you have yours? And she's not sharing. Okay, so it's like, okay, I got to go on my own on this one. So we got back, and I got to make sure that everything's okay. So I had to make a doctor's appointment. Now, down here in the South, it's like you can't get in the next day, 2 days, 3 days later. My appointment was for August 30th. When I came back about the 2nd or the 3rd. That's the first time I could get in. Now, in the meantime, I'm like, now I got my own acid-reducing stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I got off coffee, because I did get off coffee. So on top of the acid reflux, I was going through coffee withdrawals. It's like, all right, why don't you put another layer on yourself and just go all out? It's like, okay, I'll do it. Might as well get it all done at one time. So anyway, so I'm dealing with the withdrawals from the coffee, which I'm glad to say that one of the things we're going to talk about before we wrap this all up is about eliminating things that you don't really need. Now, you may love coffee. It may not bother you. I don't need it. It's like the alcohol. I don't need it. I don't need it anymore. I'm done with it. Because you got to say it. You got to say you're done with it. Otherwise, you're really not going to be done with it. That is so true. So the coffee, bye-bye. I enjoyed it while I had it. I don't need you anymore. I'm into other things now. Because I don't really want to have another acid reflux attack. It's not fun. And those of you who have experienced know that. People have issues almost even when they eat. I don't deal with that, but if I don't do what I should do, then I will have an acid reflux. Sometimes it's very small, but like this one in Mexico was like, that was at the top of the scale. I call up and I'm like, look, I know I've got a doctor's appointment, but I don't know if I can wait until end of the month. Is there any chance I can get in there sooner? I'm dealing with acid reflux. I got to make sure everything's okay. Well, that's the first appointment we have, and your doctor's on vacation, and we'll put you on a waiting list. Okay. So I got on a waiting list. And so I'm getting emails. I get an email from the medical company that we have here, the medical hospital group. It's called Novant, and so that's who I'm through. And so you get the My Chart, right? You get the My Chart thing. So I get an email. My Chart? You got a message. I got a message, medical mail. Better be good. Letting me know that they've upped my appointment. Like, okay, that's good. So I finally got in. So I get in there, and they got to do all that stuff. They got to check your blood pressure, and they got to do your weight, and they got to check your temperature and all that stuff. And then the doctor comes in, and he sits down. He's like, hey, how are you? Well, they know why I was there. But it was also for physical. So he starts talking about shingles. I'm like, I don't believe that this is the reason why I'm here. I'm not dealing with shingles. I know there's shingles on the roof, and I am a realtor, and yep, most homes have shingles. But that's not what I'm here for. But he wanted to talk about shingles because I'm at that age. All right, let's move on. And then he asked me about, when's the last time you had a tetanus shot? Well, I don't know because I don't carry that in my back pocket and open it up and have all the dates when all those things took place. I haven't stepped on a nail. That's why while I'm here. I want to talk about acid reflux. And he didn't really just like, all right, well, we'll just do your stuff and make sure you're okay and do your physical and get your blood taken and all of that, and then we'll let you know. Okay. Have a good weekend. Okay. I mean, that's pretty much it. This is what happened. So before I left, they said, well, we just want to let you know that, it's going to probably take 48 to 72 hours before you get your lab results. And so the doctor will reach out to you on the following week. It could be Monday, it could be Tuesday. Just hang tight. We'll get your lab results to you. All right, great. Fantastic. Can't wait. So now, I'm not really worried about all of that stuff. All right, I'm feeling much better, but you just got to know, right? You got to make sure you got to know what's going on. The point I'm making is there's many people who are going to be sitting around worrying about what that is or isn't. And you don't know, but you're going to worry about it. So here's what took place. On Saturday, lo and behold, like at 8 o'clock in the morning, I get an email. I get a medical message mail from the office, doctor's office. You got mail. So I go in there, and it's like, there's a message. Here are your lab results. But we want to let you know that most people will probably want to see those before the doctor does. So it might be a good idea for you to wait until Monday or Tuesday until the doctor reads them, and then he can reach out to you and go over the results with you. So that's what I posed on the question this morning with everyone on the mindset call and said, what would you do? Are you going to wait? Or are you going to open them up and look at your results? Well, the majority of the people said they're going to look. Well, that's okay. But there are some who are not going to do that, and they're not going to do anything until the doctor contacts them and go over the results. So in the meantime, all these things are going on in your life. There could be events going on, family things going on to go out, work stuff, whatever it is, things that you've had planned to do. But there are some people who won't do any of that until they hear from the doctor. Well, what's going on with you this weekend? Well, I'm kind of busy. All right, like I thought we were supposed to go to this great event over here in Lake Norman. Well, I can't do that right now because I'm waiting for my test results from the doctor. Okay. Now, again, I'm not trying to make fun of it, but I'm telling you, there are people who do that. That's called worrying. Because no matter how much worrying and sitting around all weekend, waiting for what the doctor is going to say to you is what? It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the results. Good or bad or indifferent. It's not going to happen. What do you think I did? Well, I opened them up. I read them because I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that over the course of my life, I haven't had any issues. And, the Lord has been very favorable to me on that. And I'm very grateful about it. Of course, my wife is saying, ain't nothing wrong with you. Maybe physically. A few other things we got to talk about. So everything was in range. Everything was within normal range. Everything from all the different lab results. Everything was normal. That was it. Now, even if I had to wait until Monday, I wasn't going to sit around and stew about it. Because nothing's going to change. So now, Monday comes. Do my thing. I had open house. I did stuff on Saturday. I had open house. I did stuff on Sunday. Did a video. I did a podcast. I did all these things. And Monday comes. And I get another medical email. Got mail. And it's from the doctor. Well, look at that. And here's a doctor with your results of your lab results. And here's what he says. Labs look good. Have a good week. That was it. Your labs look good. Have a good week. You could have been sitting around all weekend in the corner worrying about everything looks good and have a good week. Now, even if there was something on there that didn't look right, then it can be addressed. It's like, well, let's take a look at this number. Looks a little high. Looks a little low. Let's talk about it. Or maybe it's like, let it work itself out. See where it goes. Or maybe there's a conversation. It doesn't matter because the point is that something will be done about the results if something needs to be done. The worrying effect doesn't add anything to the process of doing something about it. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't take anything away. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you worse. It doesn't make you healthier. It doesn't make you younger. It doesn't make your job better. It can make your job worse. It can make things worse by worrying about things that you generally don't have any control over other than dealing with the circumstance in front of you and facing it, embracing it, which is the point that I'm going with all of this. All right. Now, during this call, we were talking about worrying and all of those things and basically what I've just been talking about right now. So then I decided to put some things down that I thought that was important that we can take with us that may help us with our worrying issues. So when I wrote some of these things down and I described, this is some of the things that I know that work for me. It may not work for you, but for me, one of the things that I think is important is to try to what? As I just said about the coffee, I eliminated it. I don't talk about coffee other than I'm doing it now. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to think about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. First step, I think, to deal with how we worry or to try to get off of that, the word of worry, is to eliminate it. Just stop saying it. It's not easy to do. It's difficult to do it like cold turkey, right? If you're a smoker or if you've smoked and you got to get off nicotine, it's very difficult to do it. Just total withdrawal, cold turkey. People, they take steps. They get the patch or they get something else to bring down the nicotine in their body. Very difficult to just do it. Now, some did, and I did it. I did it cold turkey. I tried other things. It didn't work for me, so I had to totally eliminate it. I have to tell myself that I'm done with it. I don't want it anymore. And that's the same thing like I did with coffee. I don't need it anymore. It's not great for me. Maybe good for you, not great for me. So I'm done with it. Alcohol was the same way. Of course, that took a lot more than just saying it. That took a lot of stuff. If you stop using the word, and maybe if you need to substitute it for something else like concerns or challenges, that may be a good way to go. So just if you stop yourself and say, all right, well, I've got a challenge today. I have a concern today. And start using that in your vocabulary instead of using the word worry. Or even to say to someone else, like, what are you worried about? You don't even need to do that. So that was number one. Number two was, for me, in my life, I use prayer. It's good for me because there's things I can't deal with, and that's what the Lord, it's like he says, bring your burdens, cast your burdens onto me. And that's what I do. It's like I pray about it, and he's going to work it out for me because I know that what he says is true. Now, we also wrote down, besides prayer, we wrote down meditation. And that's another good thing to do. It's not easy to, unless you've been doing it for a while, because your mind can just float into another area and you start thinking about the stuff that you shouldn't be thinking about. So it does take some training in meditation. But there are people who, they'll put on like one of these ocean videos, sound videos, and just concentrate on it. And that will help them because some people have stacks and stacks and stacks of things on their plate. And they have to figure out how they're going to get through all of those and not be just consumed by the tasks other than working through them. Well, number one was eliminate it. Number two was change the verbiage. Number three was for prayer, meditation. And the last one was about reaching out to somebody else. Reach out to someone else. Call someone. Doesn't matter who it is. Someone in your pipeline, someone in your sphere, another agent, whoever it is. Talk to someone, but yet don't just talk to them about your problems. You want to talk to them and ask them how they are doing, what's going on in their life, and what you can do to help them. Because you'd be surprised to find out that when you do that, when you start thinking about the other person's needs instead of yourself, you're not thinking about your problems. You're not concerned or worried now because you're not thinking about them. You're now involved what's going on in that other person. The other person's going to say, I really appreciate the fact that you called me, talked to me, and this is what I'm dealing with. And you're like, well, that's okay. Here's what I can do. Here's how I can help you. Or would you like me to help you? Or let's work together. Because that's really important. We need to work together on these things, all right? So that's the way that I had framed that. Because the point really is these things that you have no control over. We do talk about your circumstance, changing your circumstance, But the worrying effect doesn't change the circumstance. It could probably make it worse, because what most people do, tell me if I'm wrong, but most people are just going to sweep it under the rug, put it on the carpet, put it under the bed, on the mattress. They're going to put it in the closet. They're going to it's out of sight, out of mind, and I ain't going to deal with it. Well, whatever that is that you're thinking about, that you're having an issue with, whether or not it's a deal in a transaction that you've had issues with, and I've dealt with those before. Let me tell you, in the past, I know on some deals that I had, I used to lay awake all night. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? I just got to get up in the morning and I got to deal with it. I have to face it head on. That's the point I'm making. Putting it somewhere else out of sight to say that I'm not going to deal with it now is not dealing with it. You have to embrace it. You have to face it. So look at it this way. Let's take race car drivers. They know what they're in for when they get behind the wheel and get in that car cockpit. They know that there could be a chance they're going to get into a wreck. They're going to smash another car. They could have a turnover. They can get injured or worse. Now, do you think that they're worried about it before they get in the car? I don't think so. I mean, why would you do that then? If you're worried about something like that happening that may not happen, then why would you get behind the wheel? Because they are probably trained how to deal with fear. And fear is a form of worry. Because it's something we don't see or we don't know. And because we don't see it and we don't know, then we're making things up of what it could be. Just like with the lab results. Well, it could be all these things. Well, it could be. And then again, it couldn't. It's like they're not going to get in their car and say, well, I hope I don't get into a wreck. If they do, they do. That's part of it. It's experience. Number one, it is experience. It's not like they just get behind the wheel for the first time. They probably had some little bit of fear for the first time, but they were probably very young. But they probably go through a whole process in their mind before they get into the car because they know that there is a likelihood that something's going to happen. But if they continue to bring the fear with them or they bring their worry about it, then they're probably not going to have a very good time driving around the track. They're probably not going to get very far or even win if that's what they want to try to do, is to win the race. The worrying is going to prevent them from moving forward. And that's what worry does. It's an enabler. It will hold you back from other things that you could be doing that could be enriching your life, enriching someone else's life, than just sitting around and worrying about something that you have no knowledge of. So that's the point that I wanted to make with you. I hope that this is encouraging to you because I dealt with this, people. I dealt with this in my life, in my family, for many years. I lived in an environment, and there I know there's many people that do. Because the old school ways of grow up many, many years ago, and everything was about, well, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about going to get the job. I'm worried about if I'm going to be able to do this or get to school, or I'm worried about my test. I'm worried about the car getting me to work. I'm worried about all of those things. And nothing has even happened yet. You haven't gone to school. You haven't gone to the car. You haven't gone to work. It's like getting a piece of mail. Certified letter. You know what people normally do when they get a certified letter? They put it in a drawer. Even if they got to sign for it. They don't want to look at it. I ain't going to open up that letter. I don't know what's in there. I don't want to deal with it. I'll deal with it later. Well, that can be a problem, depending upon what's in the letter. So is it better to open up the letter when you receive it and look at it and read it and embrace it and know what it is than hiding it in a drawer? Because you know it's there. Every time you walk by that drawer, you're going to be, that letter's in there. I'm going to get to it soon. I'm going to do a few more things right now. I'm going to call some people. I'm going to make some of this. I'm going to do some of that. Maybe I'll go out to eat. I'll come back. Oh, that letter's still in the drawer. It ain't going away. And in fact, based on my experience, because I worked in law for 20 years, I'm not a lawyer, wasn't a lawyer. But when I worked for lawyers for 20 years, there's a thing we send to people. You'll be getting sued. It's called a subpoena. And depending upon where you live in your jurisdiction, it has a time frame on it to answer the subpoena, depending upon where you're at and what jurisdiction. If it's district, circuit court, federal court, it's usually 21 days. And if you don't answer within a certain time frame, you basically have answered by not answering. And they can do other things because you didn't answer. They can file motions. They can file motions for judgments. They can force you to appear in court, things like that. So what I'm telling you is that the things that we are dealing with every day, number one, you have to bring them down to a measurable, understandable level, because a lot of times we make things out more than they really are. It's like the problem isn't that big, but you've made it that big. Bring it down to a measurable, something that's palatable for you. It's just a circumstance, and you're going to get through that circumstance. But if you don't embrace it and go through it, you need to go through it to get finished with it, to get it resolved. There has to be a resolution to an issue so that you can move forward. But if you don't do that and you worry about it, you're never going to get it resolved. And I know that a lot of this stuff is common sense. It sounds, Greg, it's like, it's common sense. But unfortunately, for many, it's not. Because we continue to do the same things over and over again. We bring up the past. We bring up events that have been long gone, and then we think about them. I can pretty much tell you that even when I was in an AA program, one of the things that we had to do is we had to resolve our issues, and we had to write them down. And I had a laundry list of names and things, pages, 4 or 5 pages. I mean, I'm looking around, seeing how many you got down there? Oh, what? Oh, I'm on page 5. I got some on the other side. I got the front and the back. Because you got to clear all of those things and resolve them. Because we used to say that, as long as it doesn't harm you or someone else, then you should make amends. Sometimes you can't. Right? And then that's what we say. There's that serenity prayer, for the things that I can control, the things that I cannot. But you have to embrace them, even if you take the time to write them down. Even if you don't show anybody it, just write them down yourself. Send yourself an email. This is what I'm upset about. Can't stand it. I'm dealing with. Go ahead and do that. No one's going to call you up and say, you better not be doing that stuff, better not be sending those emails to yourself. Now, if you send it to someone else, then you're going to have a problem. I don't recommend you doing that. That is not the way to resolve it. But we do have conflicts in our life. We do. Conflict resolution isn't about adding conflict to the resolution. It's about resolving it in a way that doesn't harm you or somebody else. I mean, that's really what it is. But there are times where if you can't resolve it, you just have to just lay it down. Or, as I said before, I bring it to the Lord. Cast my burdens onto Him. Bring it to Him. He embraces that, wants you to do that. And I think it's very important because we can't resolve everything in our lives. In fact, it's very difficult for us to do certain things. We just aren't capable of doing them. Do what you can do and don't add more layers to things that you know you can't do. The Lord is not going to give you more things that you can handle. And that's true. But it's also about the way that we approach it. It's the way that we embrace it. And it is the way that we walk through it. Because you will get through it. You will get to the other side. There is going to be either a resolution or a closure. Something's going to happen to resolve whatever it is or whatever you're dealing with. It's going to take place, even if it's putting up a letter and reading it. That is going to be a resolution to your issue. Opening it up and reading it. Someone sent you something, just read it. The floor is not going to collapse under you. That's pretty much where I'm going with all this stuff. And I hope you're taking something from it. I'd love to have comments from it. I know there's a lot of people out there that deal with it. I mean, there's people who are dealing with situations like this. And worry can be a monumental thing. And it is a stressor. It adds stress to your body. It can cause medical issues if you don't try to resolve it or try to get help. It can. It can cause hypertension, and hypertension can lead to continued high blood pressure, which has an effect on your body, including your heart. One way that people reduce their stress is to just go get it out at the gym. If you haven't been into the gym, go do it. Spend 15 minutes in there. Spend 20 minutes in there. Just focus on your exercise for that 15, 20 minutes. Because sometimes we can only deal with things for a certain period of time. You don't need to be dwelling on them all day. Time block it. 15 minutes, I'm going to finish with this. I'm going to move on to that. 30 minutes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move on to that. And if that's what you have to do it, that's fine. But there are those, and it takes practice to do it. It's not something that doesn't happen overnight. That's what I wanted to tell you about. Couldn't say all that stuff on the call this morning because we're about, way into our 15-minute calls that we do. And obviously, we would have lost a lot of people. But hopefully, I've kept your attention on all of this, and I wasn't overly wording labor about it. That's what I got for you. I appreciate you all being here. Just wanted to come in, and it's good to do that. A lot of people like podcasts because they can get stuff off their chest. That's what it's for. And sometimes I have to do that. There are things right now that I'm dealing with, but I'm not going to sit around and worry about them. I'm working them through, and this is one of the processes that I'm working through them, is by talking about that, because you do need to verbalize these things. Holding them inside isn't good. Appreciate you all. Hope you all have a great rest of the week when you get this. I want to thank everyone who continues to listen to the podcast, Raised on Real Estate. Can't tell you enough about how much we appreciate it, and those that listen, wherever you are. If you like it, you can go on Spotify. You can go on other places. You can like it. I'm going to put this stuff, get it up on YouTube. You can listen to it there. There's many places that you can check out the podcast and all of these things. So that's it for me today. Greg Angello, Raised on Real Estate. Love you all. Appreciate you. Take care of one another, and we'll talk to you soon.